Can you lose your job with just one bad season? It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. All right, we will talk JMU or ODU. I don't have a bias in that one. I'm wondering why some people do. And early week 5 preview as well. And so let's talk about one bad season costing coaches their jobs. Or Mike Gundy just got let go. Is that a couple of bad seasons or maybe more than that in a row? Although he did turn it around after they lost to South Alabama a couple of years ago. But it's been a downward trajectory for sure. Now, the guys we're talking about here, I'm going to be specific, not going to beat around the bush. Tim Beck was off to a really bad start until they blew out South Alabama. And it does not look like it's going to be a good year for the Raging Cajuns. All right. Now, I've said this many of times. There's excuses and there's reasons. The reasons that the Cajuns are where they are, they lost their tight end. They're playing with a bunch of inexperienced wide receivers. Their starting quarterback got hurt. They lost 3/5 of their offensive line, and their offensive line is hurt. None of those are excuses. Those are reasons. All right. I know he wasn't drafted. I don't know why. Whatever the case is, Landon Burton was a really good center for the Raging Cajuns. He anchored that line for numerous years. It's not as potent or as great as it was, right? We're talking about Rice here. They couldn't run against Rice. Okay. Those are those reasons. All right. Same thing goes for Coastal Carolina. Who did Tim Beck replace? He replaced Jamie Chadwell. Well, what happened in that year? All right. They tried to change up the offense, be more pro-like offense compared to the whatever they were doing, RPO triple option, impossible to defend deal until I think against that App State game is when they changed it. Tim Beck went back to what Jamie Chadwell was doing. And when you know it, later in that year, may have been that game even, he got hurt. All right. And so Tim Beck has had a quarterback issue. Yeah, well, you want to put that out of responsibility on Tim Beck? You bet. All right. They have not found a quarterback that has worked out in the last couple of seasons. All right. We'll see if Tad Hudson played okay against South Alabama. We'll see if he's the guy moving forward. But here's where we are, right? Desmo is into his 4th year. He's got 2 bowl, 3 bowl appearances. Hasn't won a bowl game, although the one bowl game he did win was right after Billy Napier left, beat Marshall and Charles Huff, as it turns out. All right. Played for a Sunbelt championship game. That quarterback, the backup quarterback got hurt after the starter already went out for the year. Well, not for the year because Ben Roldridge came back and played the bowl game. They played TCU. Not as good as TCU, got blown out. Okay. Everybody thought they were supposed to be pretty good this year, and everybody was wrong. All right. But it also starts off with Walker Howard was not nearly as good as people had hoped for, right? When you haven't played football for 3 years, there's rust, and there was absolutely rust. Now he's hurt. We don't know how good he could be. Daniel Beal appears to be improving, still making foolish mistakes as if he had never played football in his life. But I guess that just comes with experience. Cajuns are going to have to make a decision about what kind of team they are, because if they think they're going to be a balanced football team, it's not going to happen. All right. They need more along the lines of what La Tech did last week, or maybe even Marshall. Run the damn ball. We're going to run the ball. We're going to control the clock. We're going to maybe cut down on possessions. We're not scoring 38 or 45 points. We got to try to win it with 24, 28, maybe force a turnover. We can't turn the ball over and play some defense. If you can't do that and admit what you have, admit what your shortcomings are, maybe Daniel Beal could be the guy who wins throwing 10 of 15 for 150 yards and a touchdown. All right. But if they're counting on Daniel Beal to be the offensive leader, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. But are we putting that responsibility on Mike Desimo? He's the head coach. He recruits these guys. Did he swing and miss with Daniel Beal? Okay, again, he's improving, right? He's gotten better since he's come in. But still, they lost an inexcusable ball game to Eastern Michigan. Can't lose that ball game. All right. As I said earlier, maybe a couple weeks ago already, he's not going anywhere. I don't really care how bad this season is. Not losing, he's not getting fired. They do not have the money to fire the head coach. All right. And pay him, pay all the coaches, and then go hire a new guy. All right. And new coaching staff. Not going to happen. All right. And if you think that was limited to the Cajuns, remember, same thing happened to LSU. They didn't want, the governor got involved with that one, right? With Les Miles. He was getting fired, whether they changed their mind or not. He was getting fired. Think they beat A&M, and they changed their mind at halftime. But part of that was budgetary cuts. Not budgetary cuts, but budgetary issues in Louisiana. Big shocker. Same thing that's going on now. So he's not going anywhere. All right. Tim Beck in season number 3, I believe, has been to 2 bowl games. All right. But not having the same results as Jamie Chadwell, right? I mean, at one point in time, they were the top team, top dog in the Sun Belt. All right. Undefeated. Was never going to get into a 4-team playoff, but, was very, very good and formidable. All right. And it has not gone that way so far. They've been average, but they're having a bad year this year. Started out poorly. Got blown out by Virginia. Eked past Charleston Southern, and then embarrassed at home by East Carolina. And that's why that loss by South Alabama is inexplicable. And yet, did Tim Beck save his job with that game? We will see. There's a long way to go. There is money behind Coastal Carolina. All right. The former coach has plenty of it if they need to find a new coach. The Cajuns don't have that kind of money. All right. The Cajuns just don't. So we'll see if that makes a difference. I don't think you lose your job with one bad season. That's my thing. Now, if you want to tell me Desimo's had, this is going to be 3 out of 4 losing seasons. Okay. I can't. That's true. Although the other 2 losing seasons were because they lost the bowl game. So he finished 6-6 both of those games. And remember, the first year, they went through 3 quarterbacks. They played all 3 guys. That's unbelievable, right? They've already played 3 quarterbacks this year. So, and we'll see what happens with Tim Beck. But I'd like to know what you guys think. Can you lose your job because of one bad season? All right. Who didn't lose his job was the Florida State head coach, Mike Norvell, right? They should have gone to the playoff. Didn't make it. And then, had 1 loss and then ends up with a 2-10 record and keeps his job. And now they're fighting for the ACC title and a playoff spot. So it can, in this day and age, it can turn around fast. We'll see what happens. I don't think you lose your job all that quickly, but it certainly has happened. We'll see. All right. I would think there would be more of a shot of Tim Beck because of the money behind him. Again, I guess it depends how bad it gets with the Cajuns, but it could be bad. All right. It could be bad. All right. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back. Is Old Dominion being overlooked? And is it just because of JMU's reputation? Let's take a timeout. We'll come back and talk about that. Let me first tell you about Mazda and Monarch Money. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. And with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. And Monarch Money. Most people can't name all of their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you, can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let the financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right. I guess it would come off as bias. Remember, I did pick ODU to finish second. All right. And the more they do, I'm going to keep on replaying that clip. But I did get to see JMU up close and personal, and their defense is spectacular. All right. Again, 2 plays. They may have won that Louisville game. Offensively, not sure what they were doing. People are all conspiratorial decisions, as if Liberty spent a lot of time worrying about 2 quarterbacks and they couldn't stop one. I don't know. Bob Chesney says they were never in position to where they could play Matt Sluka of the way the game was going. So that leaves it in the back of someone's mind that maybe they'll play 2 quarterbacks. Okay. I don't want to take anything away from JMU, but isn't ODU right there? Same spot, right? They gave Indiana, who's now much better than I would think Louisville is up to this point in time. And they go into Virginia Tech and hammer them. And it feels like, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you Virginia Tech's any good. They just fired their coach. But nonetheless, it would appear to me that ODU has a better resume right now. All right. They lost to Indiana 27-14, hammered NC Central 54-6, and beat Virginia Tech 45-26. They were off last week. James Madison, they are also 2-1. They beat Weber State 45-10. They lost to Louisville 28-14, and they beat Liberty 31-13. So you're going to tell me those schools, something's better than NC Central? Those 2 resumes look a lot alike, although one's beaten a Power 4 club, although a very bad Power 4 club. So I don't understand this. And I went back and forth, and it wasn't, I was probably antagonizing him a little bit, admittedly. But he ranked, and I'll let you know who he is, because there's no reason not to. Cam Mellor, I think, is that? Let me see who it is. I'm sorry. Steel City Baller, with a 3 as the E for baller. All right. He did the Sunbelt Power Rankings entering week 5. Okay. So I guess he ranks all the teams. JMU is 48. ODU is 61. So I asked him, whose power rankings? He goes, my computer model, who would be favored against who on a neutral field if they played right now. And I go, why would JMU be favored over ODU on a neutral field, and by how much? His numbers tell him JMU by 2.5. Since it's still early in the year, there's weight being given to the preseason rating, of which JMU is much higher than ODU. Most models, FPI, which is baloney, SP Plus, etc., do this until enough data is collected. Okay, but that's where the preseason things are. We got to take the preseason data out, because now you're only going by biases and what you thought was going to be the case, right? We thought the Cajuns were going to be able to pass the football. They cannot. We thought the Cajuns were going to be able to catch the football. They cannot. Getting better at it, but having issues. So this is still preseason bias as far as I'm concerned. ODU on a neutral field should be favored over JMU. I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm just saying, based on what this guy was doing, they should be, okay? And I go, that's your issue right there. After 4 weeks, you should start from scratch. Preseason rankings mean nothing. He goes, I've experimented with that, and the predictions get a bit wonky if you take priors completely out after just 3 or 4 games. There's been a lot of research done it by folks smarter than me, and that includes Bill Connolly over at ESPN, who does that SB Plus stuff. And it's best for predictions to slowly phase them out. If you're talking about ranking teams based on what they've accomplished, then I 100% agree with you that ODU would be favored. But for making predictions, it's important. Vegas odds makers would agree. And then how do you account for JMU's 2-quarterback system? Did you know that's what they were going to do? Has it been effective? And then what happens when they don't use it? Feels like there are assumptions being made that should be ignored. All right. But then he went back. He asked about, there was a, it's impossible to account for that kind of stuff for 265 teams, of course, including FCS. The model is pretty simple, but it tracks with Vegas lines fairly well. And so then I became a smart ass, like Vegas's 17.5-point spread over Syracuse. That did not go Vegas's way. All right. So much for that. Okay. So being a little smart ass with that, which he said, hey, I had Clemson -12, so I was closer than Vegas. Okay. I'm just saying, based on what we know right now, I think ODU would be favored on a neutral field. And if it's JMU, on a neutral field. Now, we're going to have to wait a few weeks for this game to come, right? This is October 18th. So what's that, 3 weeks? Can I count? There's been, no math. Let's see where we are. 1, 2, 3 weeks from this Saturday. So 3.5 weeks. I mean, that's going to be a huge football game. If that was at JMU, I would have seen how I could make that game, but it's not. Hold on. Oh, it is at James Madison. All right. Well, maybe we can see if we could figure that one out. I got a lot going on outside of this. I need to find a new apartment, and I don't know if I'm coming or going. So that's a whole nother story. I'll fill you guys in when possible. But the view may change. Will change one way or the other. So that's what I think. Again, I think JMU's good. I'm still not sure about the offense, okay? What they want to do with the offense. We'll see it against better competition. Who do they have? They're at Georgia Southern. That's going to be interesting. And then Georgia State. I mean, Georgia Southern is their toughest ball game coming up. They get Georgia Southern, Georgia State, and the Cajuns. And those are not. Georgia Southern is the toughest one. That's at home. They're at Georgia State. They're hosting the Cajuns. Then they're hosting Old Dominion. That's the big ball game. So we do have to wait 3.5 weeks for that one. But I just think right now, ODU should be favored on a neutral field. Not by a lot, probably by the same 2.5, 3 points. But I'm just basing it on what's been accomplished, not what we thought was going to be the case coming into the season. Because we have an idea of what these teams are. A little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. And based on that little bit, I think ODU should be favored. Okay, let's do an early Week 5 preview when we come back after I tell you about FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however you like to bet. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live action as it unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add a little bit more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your teams every day. So the big ball game in Week 5, I guess there's 2 of them, although it's not as much ODU and Liberty Bibberty anymore because of what happened last week. with James Madison, right? As it turns out, Old Dominion is favored by 16.5 points over Liberty. Should we go back and look? Wasn't it 9.5? Wasn't JMU favored by 9.5 on the road? I guess it finished up at, it opened up at 11.5 and then finished up at 7.5. So ODU's at home. And with more information, we know Liberty is not that good. And they're favored by more than 2 touchdowns. All right. So that was one of the big ball games that we thought we were going to get. It shouldn't be. But App State and Boise is the big ball game. Boise's 15.5 point spread. I did look to see if there was any AJ Swan update. If somebody has an AJ Swan update, please let me know. I didn't see it on the Twitterverse. It felt like he was going to be playing this week, but I don't know if that's the case yet. And obviously, that's going to affect anything and everything that App State does. It needs to stop turning it over, though, regardless. All right. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be, let's be honest, it's still going to be tough to win without AJ Swan. He's still your best option to win, especially if he stops throwing it to the opposing team. But Boise's 15.5 point spread. Do we believe that? I mean, I do believe it. They got hammered by South Florida, hammered Eastern Washington, and they gave up 49. They beat Air Force 49-37. And that's obviously a whole different thing. There's not a whole lot of passing in that one, right? Well, actually, there was. Air Force 246 yards on 13 to 20 passing. They rushed it for 268 yards on 55 carries. Each team had a turnover. Air Force, how about this? Air Force, 36 minutes and 20 seconds. Boise State, 23 minutes and 40 seconds time possessions. Boise State had a lot of penalties, 12 penalties, but they had almost 600 yards of offense. App State's defense is going to have to come to play. All right. Basically, App State's defense is going to have to come to play. The other big ball games, we do have some big ball games in Sun Belt play. Marshall is going back to Louisiana, the scene of the crime where they beat the Cajuns to win the Sun Belt Championship. All of a sudden, Marshall's won 2 in a row, and for some reason, the Cajuns are favored. Why would the Cajuns be favored here? Now, remember, the line is just based on trying to get 50% of the fans to bet on Marshall and 50% of the fans to bet on the Cajuns. And the Cajuns are favored by 1.5. I do not get it. Was that the opening line? Opening line was 2.5. It's down to 1.5. All right. That doesn't make any sense to me. Marshall's playing better. In fact, not only playing better, but is better. All right. And so I would think, that would be a win for Marshall. And obviously that's not going to go over well in Lafayette. All right. Another big ball game is Southern Miss, after beating App State, now playing 2 ball games out of conference, losing last week to La Tech. And this week they're hosting Jacksonville State. Southern Miss 4.5 favored by. Again, don't sleep on Jacksonville State. They slipped. They lost to UCF, who's undefeated, 17-10. They beat up on Liberty 34-24. They lost to Georgia Southern. Late Eagles comeback to win that ball game 41-34. And they easily handled FCS Murray State 45-10. Interesting news came out. Well, not news. It was in his press conference. Charles Huff said last week he recognized that they weren't practicing as well as they should have been to preparing for La Tech. So my question is, I guess I could go back and look at the whole press conference. Why didn't you change it at the time? Or were you using it as a learning tool to prove a point? Sacrificing the short term for long-term gain, because those two teams looked very different. What played against App and what played against La Tech. All right. That, again, a little bit of a letdown there from Southern Miss, but we'll see what happens. This is not going to be an easy game. In fact, ESPN actually has somehow, this is the FPI, I guess. Again, Southern Miss is favored by 4.5, but Matchup Predictor has Jacksonville State winning 50.4% of the simulation. So, again, that's a 50-50 game. All right. ULM is hosting Arkansas State, and this is a big ball game. ULM is favored by 2.5. I mean, can Arkansas State bounce back after what they did against Kennesaw State? And all of a sudden, Arkansas State, which I thought was going to contend in the Sun Belt West, could be 1-4, whereas ULM could all of a sudden be 3-1. And their loss, by the way, is to Bama, right? That would be their loss. They beat St. Francis, they beat UTEP, and if they win this weekend, they'll beat Arkansas State, and they're getting ready for Northwestern. I mean, that's a pretty good way to start out the season, all right? They didn't look particularly good against St. Francis. Defense was good. Offense put up enough, 29 points. Got hammered by Alabama, as expected. And then with a nice win, go down to El Paso and get a win over the Miners. We shall see what happens this weekend. And we're talking about Marshall, Louisiana. James Madison taking on Georgia Southern. Early ball game, a 1:30 Eastern time game. So we'll see how that goes. JMU is favored by 17.5 points. I mean, J.C. French hasn't played very well this year. It's a little bit disappointing. He would be the one guy who I thought was going to take it to the next level, and he's still J.C. French. And that's about it. We got Old Dominion Liberty. We talked about that. South Alabama taking on North Texas. North Texas is undefeated. They're 12.5-point favorite. South Alabama, that's on ESPNU. That could get ugly. North Texas beat them 51. Beat Lamar 51-0. Slipped past Worcester, Michigan 33-30. Beat Washington State 59-10, and held off Army 45-38. If South Alabama has trouble handling the football with the center, it's going to be a long day. South Alabama is staring at 1-5 overall, or 1-4 overall, right? Yeah, 1-4 overall. Not great, Bob. All right. That's going to be a disappointing start to the season. Long way to go. Can turn things around, and that game doesn't matter that much in the realm of things because you're still trying to win the Sun Belt, but you still like to play well, and they did not play well last week. They did not play very well last week. All right. Thanks again for tuning in. Still had a pretty good day. Was, oddly enough, a couple of very busy days. I got a lot done. Did go to services twice. Need all the help I can get. Again, wishing everybody a happy new year. And if you do want Jewish tradition is to dip the apples in the honey, and wishing everybody a sweet new year. So we will do that tomorrow at work. See if anybody wants to do that at the distillery. All right. We'll be back again on Thursday. Still waiting for a Colin Joseph interview. And I may have a two-parter with a special guest. We'll see if we can get that done next week. I'm not sure when that's going to get done, but we'll see. I got an opportunity to speak to somebody who doesn't mind talking. All right. As much as I love to talk, that person will be doing most of the talking. All right. Because he's really good at it and doesn't have a problem sharing. So we'll wait to tell you about that a little bit later on. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but we'll just wait to confirm it before we start being specific on who it is. It would be a fun interview, and I think I could make it 2 parts. All right. All right. Again, thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great Wednesday, and we'll be back with you on Thursday. You've been watching Locked on Sunbelt, your teams every day. Have a great day, everybody.